Hello, welcome, everyone. How are you all doing today? Happy Monday. And if you all are returning to work from the Thanksgiving break, welcome back. Happy holidays. I'm happy that you all can take this time to be here with me. Today, we're going to talk about why leadership feels so hard for women of color, Black women, Asian women, Hispanic women. Why does leadership feel so hard for us? And how can we make it easier? So, this was not even a question that came up. This was more of a statement that I heard over and over again of either women of color, so this is Black women, Hispanic women, Asian women, Middle Eastern women, who are in leadership roles and being like, it just feels so hard. And it feels like everyone else has it figured out in leadership. But for me, it feels so hard, right? And it was just like, oh, this is just a fact of life. And then I saw women who wanted to get into leadership, but talked themselves out of it because they were like, leadership is hard for us. Leadership is hard for me. Like, this is a statement of fact, and there's nothing we can do about it. And so when we think this way, what happens? Well, what happens is we don't go after that promotion. We don't go after leadership roles. We don't start our own businesses or keep the business going. Another thing I've seen that happens is when we do somehow or eventually get into these leadership roles, two things happen. And you all have heard me say this before. Within a year, by choice or by force, you are removed from that role, right? If you're not working on your confidence, your self esteem, your brand, right? Seeing yourself as a leader, so your leadership identity, then by force of choice, you will be removed. This is why I started my leadership legacy program. Before, I just had the Fearless Branding Formula, helping women get to their first six figures. And then I noticed they would be getting into these roles and they needed so much more support to be happy and successful in the role. Happy and successful, and to sustain their lifestyle and themselves in their career in these roles. The other thing that happens is that they become miserable in these leadership roles because they feel like they need to work twice as hard for half as much, because they feel like they have to keep proving themselves, right? So this is why this topic is so important, on why leadership feels so hard for women of color and how we can make it easy. As I'm going through this, if you are like, this is wonderful, and you want to learn more about this, I am covering this topic and so much more in my free workshop titled How to Build a 200K Career as a Woman of Color. Because these days, six figure is not enough. You all, we need to be in 200K or more. So that's $200,000 or more in our roles today in 2025, with inflation sky high, with eggs at $6, $7, and groceries crazy expensive. Even got me. I hosted Thanksgiving dinner and I went to the grocery store, and y'all, I was shocked by some of these prices. Let me say this. But we need to see ourselves as leaders. And a leader is someone who has influence, impact, and the income. Okay. You have to have all three of the eyes in order for leadership, right? If you are just having influence and impact, but you don't have the income, you are being a worker bee instead of a queen bee. You need to be working more strategically than being stagnant in your career. Okay. So if you put pivot in the comments, I'll go ahead and get you the link to the free workshop. It's on Thursday, December 11th at 7 p.m. Eastern. But go ahead and put pivot in there. We're going to be covering this topic and more. We're going to be going in depth. And I'm going to be opening up my leadership legacy program to you all. I'm going to have special bonuses and fast action bonuses. Some great freebies for you guys. Okay. But let's get to this. Why does leadership feel so hard? And let me ask you, and you can just give me a why or put your hands in the comments, right? Do you think leadership for you is hard? When you think of either being in your current leadership role or going into a leadership role, And again, influence, impact, income. So that means nurse practitioners, nurses, doctors, physician assistants, physical therapists. I know what's going on. I'm aware that of the whole not professional thing that just came down, but you are a professional and you are a leader. People in human resources, people in accounting. So you don't even necessarily need to supervise to be considered a leader in this. But I have just seen women, especially women of color, stall themselves out in their income and in their career. And honestly, also in your, I would say, happiness and peacefulness, because you're like, I'm working, working, working harder, 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 without the influence, the impact, and the income, right? So, do you think leadership feels hard? Let's start there. If you do, give me a why. If you're like, no, I don't think it's too hard, put a no in the comments. All right. I just want to know where we're at. But this is one of the reasons it feels so hard. The number one reason, I'll say this, no particular order, but my tip for number one is because we are also taught that we need to do all the things, right? As women of color, we're taught, and at least in my culture and many of the cultures that I have worked with, to still clean the house, to still take care of the kids, cook the dinner for the man, to still make sure that we're taking care of our entire family, to still go into work and be able to know every job of our staff, to know how to do every job of our staff. Oh, we need to work twice as hard for half as much. Oh, we need to have all the answers for our boss. Oh, we need to do our job and our boss's job. And it's never enough. Oh, we need to keep going back to school, keep getting all these degrees. We need to keep getting certification after certification. I met this one woman, you guys. She had, sorry, I gotta plug my have to plug my laptop in. She had 14 different certifications and the most random things that didn't even correlate. And when I asked her, I said, well, why do you have 14 different random certifications, right? And she was like, because when I'm in a meeting, I never want someone to say, I don't know what I'm talking about. I was like, but you've stalled out. You could have went deep into finance. Now you all in all you in sewing and just all these other things that didn't correlate, that did not move the needle for her career. And I asked her, I said, well, are you speaking up in meetings? And she was like, no. I was like, then the certifications didn't help. But that's what she felt like she needed to be a good leader, and she still didn't solve the problem of not speaking up and being respected in the meetings. All right. So this is why it can feel so hard. Is some things culturally what we're taught. We also hear from societal standards about being a woman in general and how we need to do all things, versus a man is like, well, just go to work, pay the bills, maybe, right? And women is like, well, you got to take the kids to the doctor's appointments. You got to meet with the teachers, even if you don't have kids. It's like, well, you are the person in control of your family and the extended family, and everybody's coming to you for advice and financial support. And all of these things can make leadership seem so hard because we then take this mentality into the workforce. Okay. We take it into the workforce. One of the main things I see is that I need to be able to do every job of my staff. And sometimes you can be a leader without having a staff. You can be a high level individual contributor. And I've still seen people doing the work of other people. You're over proving. You're trying to keep proving. You're in this indefinite loop of feeling not enough and therefore trying to prove yourself, and it's never enough. I had a client, she had been working for this company for 25 years. She had worked her way up, she was in leadership, and she was actually being put on a PIP because she was not doing strategic work. And she had all these ideas when she would speak to me, and I was like, why aren't you contributing these ideas? And she was like, well, no one wants to hear. I don't speak up in the meetings. She kept asking for permission. I was like, you need to see yourself as a leader, ma'am. You need to see yourself as a leader, someone whose voice is heard. But society tells us don't speak unless spoken to. right? And we all know when we're in meetings with mixed companies, sometimes other people's personalities can be a little more dominant. And so we have all this internal dialogue that can make things feel harder for us. Especially, and I will ask y'all, how many of you all have seen a leader or maybe even your boss do less work than you? I know I have. That's what I knew. I was like, well, how come he ahead of me, making more money than me, higher title than me, but doing less work? Okay, it must be something different. It must be something different. So start to realize your voice matters. There's something different. You need to be a strategic worker, that queen bee, not a worker bee. At the high level, when you're trying to get to 200K and more, they are paying you for your ideas, your impact, your influence. Yes, you should be able to know how to do your job. Let's say that. That goes without saying. Okay. But what we don't want to do is be in an indefinite loop of trying to prove ourselves. We don't want to be working twice as hard for half as much. That math will never math. It will never math. Okay. Not to mention, we also come into places, whether it's corporate America, whether it's owning your own business, whether it's even nonprofits, when we step into the room, we are aware as a woman of color, sometimes as a woman of color over 40, that we're stepping into a place where people have their own personal biases that do not benefit us. That will automatically cause more mental work for you. So know that that's a thing. When people are like, oh, you're like, well, how come this person can just show up loose? It's because this whole thing was created around them. You're stepping into a place that was not created and centered around you. Even though that's the case, it does not mean you cannot be successful. It just means it wasn't designed for you. But it's a lot of places that was not designed for me that I am successful in. A lot. You can create your own design. You have to have that leadership identity and know your leadership, your gifts, your brand, your talents stay with you no matter what room you step into. Okay? No matter what room you step into, all of these things stay with you. But let me check the comments. All right. Anne says pivot. All right. And we're going to get that link to you. Love the profile picture. All right. Anne says it's hard for me at times because of lack of support and trust. Yes. There is definitely, I would say, especially now, let me be honest. I've worked with leaders for the past, nearly 7 years. And I can say that right now, I have seen less support for women of color leaders. And that is coming from the top. And when I say the top, I mean of this administration who is setting the tone for other organizations and corporations that there is a lack of support and trust for Black women and women of color in general in the workforce. Again, that doesn't mean you're not supported. It may mean you may have to go out and find your own support system. This is why in my program, Leadership Legacy, we have a whole community component where you can engage in the community, find support from people who look like you, share an experience, get advice, maybe even find a mentor, right? I always recommend that you have your own support system outside of the workforce. Okay. And it can be a work related support system. Like they have HR for the HR Association for African Americans. They have all different things. Find a support system for you, and that can be outside of the workforce. And I recommend it. But yes, that is a serious way that things can seem hard because you can walk into somewhere and be like, I have no support here, especially if you don't see many people who look like you or even think like you or may have a similar background. Sometimes people look like us, but they don't think like us, right? So having some similarities will also help. But to get around that, and honestly, think about how you can find your own support system away from the workplace. Again, you can still be successful. You just may need to alter that. Okay. And then men are, she says, pivot. All right, we're going to get that link out to you. And you guys remember, if you're interested and you want to go take this conversation further, you want to learn more, go ahead and put pivot in the comments and you'll get access to my free workshop, How to Build a 200K leadership. Actually, it's not leadership, just how to create, just how to build a 200K career as a woman of color. And we'll go ahead and get that to you all. We're doing it live. So I'm going to be going live via Zoom. So it's going to be a little more private. I found that people tend to ask me more questions and let their guard down a little bit more via Zoom when I'm not broadcasting live. I broadcast live to give you all the daily tips. We go more in depth on Zoom in the workshops, and we have a Q&A component, so we can ask you so you can ask me some questions during the webinar and the workshop. So it says, how do we join the leadership community? Well, I have a fearless branding formula. I have a fearless branding formula program, and then I have a leadership legacy program, and the community is inside the program. I am thinking about starting like a online community, but like a free online community, but that will not be until 2026. So that is coming because I've seen the need for community so much, especially right now. We need that support, but that won't be coming. The free community won't be coming until 2026. All right. But thank you all for mentioning that. But yes, I have my own community that I reach out to, of a community of coaches and business owners, and it has been amazing. And then I have support of my friends, of my chosen family that is amazing. And then I have my family, my birth family. Oh, and do these people keep me humble, right? And I just have my family down for Thanksgiving. They are so supportive, but yes, they do keep me humble, and they are amazing. So I have different types of support systems. And as you all know, if you've been following me for a while, you all know I also have a therapist. I also work out. I'm going to be getting a personal trainer soon. So I have a lot of support, and I have created my lifestyle with support in mind, because one of my main goals this year, I would say goals and a theme, is that I don't need to do it alone. I don't need to do it alone. And this is the next thing I want to talk about. If leadership feels hard for you, it's because we've also been taught we got to be these strong, independent women. We got to know how to do everything by ourselves. Don't trust anybody. That is simply not true. It is simply not true. The way to make it easier, again, is to create your own community, build your own support system around your needs. And it could be different types of support systems. I was in a paid mastermind, and that was one of the best ways that I have found to have a supportive community for my career in business. Then, like I said, I have my personal community and chosen family. And then I have my birth family. Well, like I said, love them to death, amazing, and they keep me humble. They're very supportive. Um, oh, she says, so needed. Looking forward to signing up. Thank you. Yes, I think you all will really love this workshop. This is something new that I'm putting together, but it's going to have a similar component inside my workshops. I always give time to network and start to build your community that way, especially through LinkedIn. We also always give a ton of great information. And then at the end, I always have a Q&A, so you can ask me any questions you need pertaining to your career, leadership, and business. And then afterwards, I'm going to open up my leadership legacy program and tell you all about these special bonuses that we have. And everything is centered around you having this peaceful, you can have a peaceful career at the 200K or more level. This is true. And I want to say this about getting to 200K in your career. People think like, oh, Latrice, it might have taken me 20, 30 years to get to six figures, to get to 100K. I don't have that long working to take me to 200K. But once you know the formula, It doesn't take long to go from 100K to 200K to even 250 and 300. I have women who have done it in a matter of 2 years. They've gone from like 90K to over 250,000, right? Because now they know the system. Now they know the method and you can just repeat it. But it's not just about the money, it's going to be about sustainability. This is why I'm giving you all these tips on how to make leadership feel easy for you, because it needs to be sustainable. When I see people saying, like, oh, I have to work 80 hours a week, is that sustainable? And do you want to do that for more than a year? No, this is also when we see burnout, when we think we have to keep working, working, working. We have to do everybody's job. When we think I have to do my job at work and then a whole nother system of roles in my personal life, until we realize I can delegate, I can automate, and best of all, I can say no. I can say no. But first, we got to get to, why does this feel hard? Why? What is it about my mindset, my thought process? What is it about my culture? What is it about society that makes this feel so hard, that is putting this unnecessary weight on me that is not even mine? That is not even mine. Okay. All right, so I just wanted to share those. We're going to go deeper into this on the workshop, but I wanted to start with this, give you all these tips on why it may feel hard for you to go into leadership as a woman of color, how to make it easy, and give you all the free resource. So again, if you're interested and you're like, Latrice, I love this, I want to take this conversation further, feel free to sign up for the free workshop, How to Build a $200,000 Career as a Woman of Color. Just put pivot in the comments. We're going to get that link out to you. And we're doing it live via Zoom on Thursday, December 11th at 7 p.m. Eastern. And honestly, you guys, feel free to share this out. If you know a woman of color who needs to hear this, tag her in the comments. If you're like, Latrice, you've been giving some great advice, I think more women need to hear this, share out this live. Tag me, I love to be tagged, and share this out. We want to get this information to as many people as possible. As you all know, I show up live every week. This is my labor of love to you all. Right? I want to make sure that I'm building trust, that I'm giving you great advice that you can use. I always like to give like tips you can use tomorrow. So these are things that you can implement and start using now in your life, in your career, all going towards the goal of having a peaceful, sustainable, and financially beneficial career and business. And I'm putting business in here because a lot of people have been asking me about my business, how I built a multiple six-figure business as a Black woman. And honestly, as a career coach, I'm just going to say it, I don't believe that your job should be your only source of income. So this is why we also talk about businesses as well. All right. Thank you guys for spending your lunchtime with me. I really appreciate it. I think I may call this like Lunchtime with Latrice, Lessons with Latrice. We're still workshopping the name. So if you have any ideas, put them in the comments. But I'm still workshopping. It's been several months and I'm still workshopping a name. But thank you all. Let me make sure I got all the comments. Thank you all for showing up. Thank you all for sharing this out. And again, if you have any questions, put them in the comments. If you want to ask me anything private, or you're interested in working with me directly, just go ahead and DM me, and I'll go ahead and I'll send you all a link, and you can book a consultation call with me for free. All right. You all have a great day. Enjoy your week. Bye.